Hello. 40 Days with the Fathers. Introduction. Why read the Fathers? Maybe for some of you listening to this, the question might be better phrased as, who are the Church Fathers? No doubt you will be familiar with some of their names: Augustine, Jerome, Clement, Ignatius, Polycarp, Justin Martyr, et al. You may have even read portions or quotes by some of these men, but that still doesn't really explain to you who they are and why you should care, much less actually read any of their works. This book deals with a selection of some of the most influential Church Fathers, sometimes also referred to as Apostolic Fathers, if they lived between 70 and 150 AD, or Ante-Nicene Fathers for all of those in the period of time preceding the Council of Nicaea in AD 325. It's these men who wrote doctrine and defences against heresy and helped to continue and shape the Church in its most formative years. Some of the early Christian leaders of the 2nd century were discipled and taught by the apostles themselves. Those include Clement of Rome, Ignatius of Antioch, Polycarp of Smyrna. Still others in the mid-2nd century were then taught by those who knew men who were taught by the apostles. One of the more well-known bishops, who was the second generation to the apostles, was Irenaeus. He's best known for his extensive apologetic work called Against Heresies. And just a small footnote, Clement's epistle is not part of this book, but just as a small reference, in 1 Clement 5, 1-7, he speaks of the apostles Peter and Paul as being of his own generation, and holds them up as recent examples to follow. So it's also one of the earliest extant Christian texts outside the New Testament, alongside the Didache. From day/chapter 21 onwards, though, we look at a few writers from beyond the period of the Nicene period, around 356, up until AD 449, where we can observe some distinctive changes in thought and practice. These people who came before us, those great men of faith, many of whom suffered persecution and martyrdom to preserve the Church and Christ's mission, bridged the gap between the Bible and the present day. They fill the void we sometimes wonder about when we get to the end of reading Acts or the epistles and think, what happened next? And what happened to the Ephesian church after Paul left? So why read what they wrote? The Bible didn't just drop out of the sky, all leather bound and ready for us to pick up today. There was a lengthy process of selecting and preserving the apostles' teachings, which spanned nearly 4 centuries. And it was due to the fathers and their faithfulness to the scriptures that this was possible. Not only that, but due to their close links to the apostles, some of whom were even taught directly by them, we now have valuable resources and insights into aspects, teaching and issues within the very early church, which we can learn from and measure our doctrine and interpretation against. This isn't to say that everything the Church Fathers said, did or wrote is perfect, or that we should elevate their texts to the level of Scripture, but we can glean much from those who knew them and were discipled by the apostles, or those who knew them secondhand. We can learn and read what certain portions of Scripture meant to them, or see how they interpreted things in the years following the apostles, and can compare that to how we might read those same Scriptures today. This is a highly valuable resource for us to still have available, to be able to check and hold our beliefs and doctrines against accepted historical orthodoxy, which was quite literally shaped through blood, sweat and tears. It's a wonderful thing to be able to look back millennia and know that what we believe and follow as Christians has been faithfully passed on and preserved for all this time. Many doctrines we now take for granted were actually developed and defended during this time, carefully worded and formed to ensure that the truth of God doesn't get lost, diluted or warped for selfish gain. We owe much to these men of God and can still learn a great deal from them, as they still speak to us today as part of that great cloud of witnesses that have gone before us. Okay, so that's the end of the introduction. I hope it wasn't too dry or boring. And I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Bye.